Hello YouTube, my name's Rikinos, and today we're going to be talking about something here that has got me a little nervous. Netflix's Cowboy Bebop series. I saw this article for various different people online and around on the web, and the first thing that really jumped at me was, will not be a one-to-one adaptation. Faye Valentine's costume to be censored. We need to have a real human being wearing that. Okay, there's so much to talk about, but we're going to keep it short as much as possible in just this one, title, because it's definitely not just this one title. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. But the fact that he can't even Google that this is not true. This part right here, real human? I mean, seriously, you can't find somebody? Let's find somebody, okay? Let's see. Faye Valentine, and I can't spell right, but that's okay. It'll autocorrect for me. Cosplay, images. Well, let's see here. Oh, look, that's a real human. How about you? Hey, you're real. You're real. Oh, this one I love. This one I love. This one's perfect, actually. Right here. That face. Let's see. Ooh, with a Spike Spiegel too. Look at that. I mean, come on. You're really telling me no one could fit that? No one could fit into that? She's having a blast. Was that one there? Was that one there? I mean, okay, here we go with the couple. I mean, she doesn't have the suspenders on, but who fucking cares? I mean, I'm just saying, you can't tell me a real person can't fit that. Really? You can't? And not one of these people is a cosplayer. Screw you. Or an actress that can just be here. Screw you. You're wrong. So this is already stupid. Right here is already stupid. Okay, and that doesn't help me. And then will not be a one-to-one adaptation. Well, unfortunately, most of the Netflix's live action haven't been that way either. I mean, look at, to be honest, with Full Metal, I fell asleep, so screw that. Bleach, I was actually extremely disappointed. I could do a whole video on that too if you want, but just watching that kind of hurt my eyes. I mean, like, the costume was wrong, the hair was wrong, how the Sarate was from this like vibrant, Edo period, very nice looking, back in the day Japanese area, very brightly lit, normal sun up and sun down. Turns into this purple thing. I don't know. Moving right along, but it's definitely something that is definitely wrong here, and this is definitely something that's going to happen. I mean, that's just what they do because they have to do it for today's audience and not for everybody. And when I say today's audience, I mean kids who did not grow up on Cowboy Bebop, or even young adults or adults who grew up on Cowboy Bebop and all the life lessons. There's tons and tons of life lessons in here too. So this guy here, Javier Grillo, I'm not even going to try. So I'm just going to call you Javier, sir. Is the person who will be doing it. He says the series will not be a one-to-one adaptation. Ugh, whatever. We'll know what's going to happen. He confirmed changes such as outfit swap for Valentine. See, here's the thing. I will say this, though. I don't mind, if you're going to update certain things, because it's like, okay, that was the 90s. We need to update the look. Fine. But to say that it's because no one can fit this is bullshit. So you're lying to me. You're doing it to get people to watch your show, not because you want, like, I want to give her a today's look. If he came out and said, listen, the costume back then, how it was perfectly fine, it's just that's not today. We're gonna give her a today's look. You know what? I'd be like, it may not be it right, but I'll take it. And this part here is stupid. The less glamorization of smoking, and it has an original narrative. We'll get to that second part later. But the glamorization of smoking, yes. They smoked a lot. I get it. But when it comes down to it, smoking is not glamorized in this. It's what they do. They're adults. They're overworked. They just need a break. And you know what? If I was a bounty hunter in space and I had barely any money and really no comfort, I think a cigarette might actually sound like a good idea, to be honest. I'm just saying, and it's not the whole don't knock it till you try it bullshit. It's one of those things that's like, you have to move on. You just have to move on. This is bullshit. Okay? And again, they don't smoke as much as you fucking think. That's the other part. It's like, oh, it's no, they smoke, they do their job, they gamble, they run around, they get themselves into trouble, or they're killing space lobster. You'll know if you saw that episode. It's a great episode as like an individual break from everything else, but whatever. And again, the original narrative, well, we'll get into that in a second, because to be honest, that just sounds like a fanfic, and that's what we're watching. And just so you know, and I will go over this more later, 50 Shades of Grey was a fanfic of Twilight. Yeah. So just keep that in mind here. Let's see. Discusses proceeds, go, blah, 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 don't care. Recognizing Cowboy Bebop's status as a widely beloved iconic anime series, the author or writer notes that the design philosophy of the series was that we ain't playing Bebop, Bebop is playing us. Okay. I will say this right now. In the comments below, if you have any goddamn idea what in hell he is trying to say with this, I will be very appreciative. I'm sorry, I have nothing else to give. I really don't. But I would like to know what the hell he means by this. We ain't playing Bebop, Bebop's playing us. What the hell are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. You can't look at Bebop and say, we'll just take off. It's just a takeoff point. We're going to give them different hair and different clothing, and we're going to call it something different. But instead of doing that, which is still stupid, you're taking the name Cowboy Bebop, the characters, Faye right here, and others, and it's mostly Faye. It's like, we're going to change things about Faye, but most of the pictures on this article are mostly about Faye. Or, Spike here, or Jet, or Ein, or Ed. I mean, come on. Wouldn't you want to know more about Ed? We'll get to more knowing about things. You're taking things that are established and then making your own original narrative and still calling Cowboy Bebop. So I think you're doing things worse in that regard. Moving on, let's see what else he's doing here. Blah, 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 blah. Handling stars and quality. Notes, the show will feature an original narrative. Now, what does he mean by that? Does the team wish to avoid fans of the show looking at it and say that we failed them or we failed the original? But see, if you do an original narrative with using these characters and parts of story and broadening on that, then you are going to fail them. In my mind, this is my opinion. If you guys think better, it's fine. But it's like, here's a good comparison. I'm going to give you guys a great comparison in the positive light of a different original narrative. Full Metal Alchemist. I know I mentioned it for live action, but I'm not talking about that one. If you watch the original Full Metal Alchemist anime, okay, pretty much up to the episode where the Elric brothers first meet Greed, pretty much everything up to that is almost the same. There's little subtle differences, little added things here and there, but it's pretty much the same narrative. After they meet Greed, that's where it branches off and becomes vastly different. And they meet, they meet Homunculus named a different name, and their mother being involved in all this BS, all these things, yada yada. The point is that I grew up watching the original Full Metal, and I watched Brotherhood that was based off the manga. And I'm telling you right now, I like both series. I do like Brotherhood better for certain reasons and certain aspects, which I'm not going to get into today. But it doesn't make me like the other one any less. I do like the other one, and I still like the original anime to this day. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, do you want to watch the original? I will watch the original again. But see, it's still sticking to the narrative. I really feel like the original anime stuck to the notes. It's almost like a Game of Thrones thing where the author's like, these are my notes, don't screw it up. And honestly, if you think about how if you think about certain details, both animes do the exact same thing. The only real difference is, the whole thing with father, and that the homunculus are actually his emotions instead of being actual humans who were transmuted, and they were given more more stones, philosopher's stones, to be able to be themselves and stay alive and everything. There's a few key differences, but honestly, if you think about it, 90% of what they did in each one is pretty much the same. That 10% difference is just the very fine details between the two. That's doing an original narrative, but still sticking to the story and not screwing over the fans. Because again, when I was reading the manga, I was like, this is a little different than what I've watched, but I still like what I watched. And again, they touched on different aspects. They went on to, touch with different people, added characters, their twists and turns, just like how the original manga and Brotherhood became. If that's what they're going to do here, I'm all for it. That's great. But here's the problem. They've already pretty much expressed what they're going to do, and that's where I don't like. First and foremost, they're taking 22-minute episodes to a full hour. Now, they have done this. On Netflix right now, there is a live-action remake or adaptation called The King's Avatar. There is a Chinese, because it is Chinese-based, there's a Chinese anime of the same name, and they changed a few things. One of the things they changed is similar to this with the whole smoking thing. Because the main character in The King's Avatar is an avid smoker, and they even make fun of him in a few episodes about it. I've watched the entire live action, and I didn't like a few things of how he got into where he is, and the quirkiness he is, and blah, blah, blah. But overall, I did like it because I liked the majority of what it is, and from what they did for the live action, it was very close to the anime that I watched. They didn't finish the anime yet. They're still only on season 1 with an OVA, which does get covered in both get covered in the live action. But if you want spoilers about what happened after that, then whatever. But you can all the episodes, all 12 episodes are on YouTube, and the OVA I think is also on YouTube, so you can see that there. It's called The King's Avatar. If you're a gamer, I would really, really recommend you watch it. It's not an isekai or anything like that. It's literally playing esports. It's about esports. It's amazing. And the game that they play called Glory, I wish there was a game we could play. But anyway, so back to here. They say it's going to go from 22 minutes to a full hour. Yeah, understood. The new narrative will try to tell the broader story of Spike with the Syndicate, Julia, and Vicious, and all of that. First and foremost, we know about Spike and the Syndicate. We know about Spike and Julia, and we know about Spike and Vicious. Yes, there are a few rocks that we can overturn to find a little bit more information. But in this, if we're going to go on a broadband of a broader narrative, wouldn't we want to know more about Faye? Wouldn't you want to know about her from the 20th century, her family, her friends? What the hell happened to her? I mean, we know it was the explosion of the first gate and all that shit. But wouldn't you want to know more about her? How about Jet? All we know about him is that he used to be a cop. I mean, maybe there's something more to him. There were women in his life. We know that. We know that he had friends and other people in the ISP. Like, who else does he know? Wouldn't you want to know more about Ed? I mean, come on. How Ed became Ed? I mean, I want to know about these three too. So go into them. But he just wants to go into Spike. He says it right here, where you've got a show where you have 26 episodes that are full of colorful villains, colorful stories, and colorful adversaries, bounties, and all that, which is true. That's one of the reasons why we loved it, because it's so vibrant in so many aspects. It's great. We're not going to go one-to-one on any of these stories because we're going to try and tell a broader story of Spike and the things that he does. But the majority of the episodes are about Spike. There's a few in-betweens about Faye, there's a few in-betweens about Jet, and there's a few in-betweens about Ed. Besides the consecutive episodes or episodes that are not related to each other, the rest of them are about Spike. That's it. It's ridiculous. So you're pretty much doing what you're not going to go one-to-one, but you're pretty much doing what already happened. But we are looking to show and saying who are some of the greatest villains in the show and how can we put them into this broader narrative. Meaning they're going to try and connect villains and bounties and connect them to not only to Spike but also to the Syndicate and to Julia and to Vicious. And that's just stupid. They're bounties. They're villains in the bounties. I mean, the only villain that we knew was the one Jed had to went after with his old partner, and he found out that his old partner was actually the one behind it. It wasn't the villain that they put away. Who, and that's pretty much the short story, and it's a short story about how he lost his arm. Again, wouldn't you want to know more about that? What he went through, his family went through, his psychological. Wouldn't you want to know more of what he did? I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. Anyway, and what to me, it's like, okay, so they're going to be part of the broader narrative. These other great villains have nothing to do with the Syndicate or Julia or Vicious, or even Spike in general. That means he's going to know them, but he has to go after them, and he doesn't know where they are, and it's not easy for him. I mean, the first episode, when they're going after the guy who stole all the red eye from the Syndicate, that's the only connection you have about the Syndicate with him. That's it. I mean, this really isn't that hard. You can't do this because you're giving these villains more connections to Spike Spiegel, and that's just, I don't know, it's just, it makes it less complicated for basically Spike to be able to find it. It's making it less complicated. It's like, oh, I know this villain. I know him from way back when, or her from way back when, and how she used to do this and blah, blah, blah. I know exactly where to go to find her. It cuts out all the mystery about all that stuff, and that's what's really, really bad. I don't like it. I think the broader narrative is actually going to bring it down, and that's going to be the biggest problem. Okay, so let's see what we say here. So despite the original series having a finite number of episodes, writing on the adaptation's second season is already underway, which means the first season's already been written. Oh, God. And I guess approved and shot. There were no plans to end the series after a certain amount of episodes. He reasoned that there were always going to be criminals to catch. Okay. That's the big problem that you have here. You can't say you're going to make it more about Spike and his relationships with the Syndicate, Julia, and Vicious, and the villains attached, adding the villains to that now, and then say there's a finite number of episodes. Once Spike and Vicious have their fight at the end, his story is over. Done. That's the whole point. My God, this is ridiculous. Okay. I don't like it. I really don't. I mean, I could see where he's like, let's expand on it. Let's keep spreading it out so we don't get to the end point yet. Maybe. I'll give it in that sense. If he can do it in a way where the end point that we know, it's him versus Vicious. If we can push that fight further back as much as possible by adding in more villains, adding in more bounties, having more fun with the Bebop crew, you know what? That could actually make it work. But again, if it's going to be about Spike, how are you going to do that? You can't say things are going to be about Spike and then say there's more to catch. What you should have said was we're going to expand on everyone, not just Spike, but also on the other Bebop members, their narratives, blah, 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 and more bounties in between. That would have made things so much better. Let's see. John Cho being cast as Spike Spiegel. You know what? I'd watch it for that. I like John Cho. He's good. He's a good actor in my book. I'd watch it just for him. So that's just me. For you, whatever. Okay, so here's something I did read and I did not like. In direct opposition to his attempt to assure fans that the team fully indicated to capture the true spirit, remember, true spirit, of the original anime, in direct opposition of the true spirit of the original anime. This writer also revealed that certain mature elements would be toned down. What mature elements are you talking about? Well, we already talked about one, which is, of course, smoking habits. That's one thing we already know. And of course, chains to have a real human being wearing that. Again, we already showed you're an idiot. Google it. There's many cosplayers who actually wear that outfit. Let's see here. Other smaller changes are also being made in translation, as one would expect. For example, the revealing costume, blah, blah, blah. Again, if you wanted to give it a more updated look and not so revealing, understood. But here's the thing that you should understand about Faye Valentine. And even though it would be going against I would be okay with an update on the outfit, so it's like a today's look and not a 90s look. I want to say this right now. Faye Valentine is not her real name. We find that out in the anime somewhere. It's because she doesn't remember her name. Again, we find out in the anime. We know this. But here's the thing about this. She uses her feminine wilds to help her not only in bounties, but more importantly, to survive. To not have such a revealing outfit diminishes what she uses it for. It's not something for people to fap to or Google or Oogle at or any of that stuff. It's really for her to use her feminine wilds, her curvature, her sex appeal to pretty much make sure she has a bed, she's not being shot, and more importantly, make sure she gets something to eat. Okay? I put food more importantly than getting shot because starving is worse than death in so many ways. But again, I understand why you want to update the outfit, but you're not updating the outfit because, hey, it's the 2020s. You're doing it because a real human being has to wear that. And again, a real human being can't, so that's bullshit. Also told us finding balance between honoring the spirit of the original and adapting the medium to the medium and audience, which you're not doing. My question is, what other mature elements of the series will be toned down? I mean, you can't say the smoking, which again was bullshit, and the costume design is the only reasons. There has to be other things, because here's the thing: in Cowboy Bebop, there are so many life lessons to be learned. There's the lessons about fearing about who you are, and if you want to know about your past, learning about what you know of the past is to be wrong. Like with Jet, facing your past, like Spike does. One eye sees the present, the other one sees the past. That's a big thing. I really hope they have that, because that was a really big revelation in the anime, and it was really breathtaking, and it was really thought-provoking. It was like what he is dealing with all the time. He might be this go-getter, and he might be this, suave, and like nothing affects him, but then you find out there's some really dark shit he's dealing with. There's lessons about abandonment, lessons about suicide, lessons about gambling, greed, and just obsessions. There's hiding your past because you just hate things or just hate how things happen. There's so many life lessons in this show, and I really hope they don't tone them down, but I really feel that they're going to. At the conclusion of his interview, the screenwriter again attempts to ease fears from serious, loyal fan base about the adaptation, saying that he hopes we can convert them to look at our version and think that it's a wonderful translation, a wonderful addition to the original canon. Here's the problem with that statement. You're basically asking people who love this anime from beginning to end and saying, we're going to do all of these major changes. Please don't hate us. But that's what you're doing. And that's why I said earlier, this is like your fan fiction, a family-friendly fan fiction. And that's just wrong. And I'm sure there's going to be some good parts. I'm sure the actors are going to give it their 110%. I'm sure there's going to be even parts that I'm going to go, that was actually a good change, or that was a good way of how they thought of it that way. I'm sure that's going to happen. But to say, please don't hate us, Because that's pretty much what they're saying. After you're changing so much and toning down so much of the mature elements, quote unquote, yeah, it's teetering. It's very worrisome. In that sense, very worrisome. He states everybody has a different idea what's best version of the show is. Well, since the show is universally liked by almost every single person who watches it, because here's the thing, I'll either find people who like Cowboy Bebop or people who don't, and that's it. There's no like, I liked Cowboy Bebop until this episode, or I liked Cowboy Bebop until something stupid happened, or no, that never happened. Even the scenes where it's a very adult content when it comes to sexual relations or, gender identities, and even that's in it. If you didn't know that, it's in it. Please watch it. I know the entire series is on Hulu. I don't know if it's on Netflix, the anime, but I know it's on Hulu. But the point that I'm trying to say is that there's a lot in there, and one person at one point is going to watch that show and go, I can relate to that, and that's what I hope they don't take away. That I or anybody else who watches that show can go, I can actually relate to that. And then you get a feel for each of the characters. And then it just builds and builds and builds. And even though it has nothing to do with you, you go, man, I know someone who probably went through that. And I'm really glad that they portrayed that in the most honest way. So, yes, everybody has a very different idea of what the best version of a show is. And a lot of people believe the anime is the best version. Well, as far as I know, it's the only version besides the manga. But yeah, we hope that we can convert them. Look at our version. I think it's a wonderful translation, wonderful addition to the original canon. It does like to repeat itself in this article, doesn't it? I just, like I already stated before, yes, everybody has a different idea of what's the best version of a show is, but you're changing a lot, and that's the problem. You're toning down things that don't need to be toned down. You're changing things for the wrong reasons. And you're changing other things and focusing on something that's already been focused on instead of focusing on the entire Bebop crew. That's the problem. We're deep enough in a world that where fandom is important to the existence of the shows. That's why a lot of people are going to watch it and they're going to judge you completely. That people like me don't ever lose sight of that. I think that there are going to be tone-deaf reboots of things. Well, yeah, there were, trust me. We come at this as fans. We love the genre, we love science fiction, we love Cowboy Bebop, he concluded. Again, if you love it, then why are you changing it? Here's the thing. In books to movies, or comic books to movies, or in manga to movies, or TV shows, or whatever, there are some things, if it's live action, there are some things you can't do in real life. I understand all that. But if you're going to change more or change it, or if you're going to change something that you can't do with the manga or the anime into real life, but don't work around it to make the change very subtle or make it work as if it was in the manga or in the anime, then you're just changing things for changing things, and that's the problem. With the rise of open backlash and hostility, yeah, I'm not surprised that's by franchise reboot creators against fans, only time will tell if the team will continue to hold this respect. And blah, blah, blah. Early this year, Grillo, respect for aesthetic of the original series was echoed by live-action adaptation lead John Cho in an interview. IGN, who said, I think that was the big thing I was focused on all the time, was gotta keep it strange. However, in the same interview, Cho also admitted the production team did not communicate with the original series director, blah, blah, blah. So that means the person who originally directed the series, the writers and everything, they didn't communicate with them, which means... Okay. I'm going to say this part right now while I see The Rock is like screaming right here. Oh, I just gotta look at this. You're freaking out on this? I don't know why. No. Okay. So with that distraction aside, I'm going to say this. If this is another Dragon Ball Evolution, people are going to riot for another reason than the one that's going on right now, which I do hope people are safe and there's peaceful protest and no one's getting hurt. But moving aside on that, that's what's going to happen. I'm reading this. Especially when you say this part right here. Here's the thing. James Marsters, who played Piccolo in Dragon Ball Evolution, he said in interviews, "I'm gonna do my best to make sure Piccolo is as good as," and that Piccolo that we all know from Dragon Ball Z, by the way. This is King Piccolo from Dragon Ball, the one who originally separated from Kami. Listen, in an interview, just like how John Cho is saying right now, he's going to do as best as he can to make sure that character is as well as it's supposed to be. But I don't know if he said in an interview or not, James Marsters, about Dragon Ball Evolution, but Cho here says, and it is later revealed, they didn't care what Kira Takayama wanted on the thing. They didn't talk to him, they didn't talk to any of the writers, they didn't talk to anybody. They just did their own goddamn thing, and which is why we got the crap that is, I'm not saying the name anymore, that fucking movie. But they didn't do it here. He admits to it. They didn't do it here, which that's my fear. It's going to be another Dragon Ball Evolution. I really hope it's not. I hope, and I swear to God on it too. I hope to God right here and right now, you guys listening and everything, this is not what happens. I hope it's good. Because I am going to check it out. Nervously. But I am going to check it out. I guess your thoughts, your comments, please post them below. Keep it civil. I know something like this can get a little heated, but keep it simple. Keep it civil, I should say. If you're going to watch it, watch it. If you're not going to watch it, don't worry about it, but please keep things civil. And as always, guys, until next episode, see ya, Space Cowboy.